All
That's
right.
okay.
Hell yeah, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to the third and final event on Wingsuit BASE Survival with Sam Hardy. That's part three of three. We are stoked to have you back. We've been stoked to have such good attendance throughout, and we're pretty excited about the content for this one too. So we've got Sam here, owner, lead instructor of Learn to Base Jump and Wingsuit Base Camps, also a member of Base Access. Thanks again for your countless hours, many collaboration calls, and just generally being super stoked about this.
Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, stoked. It's always nice when everything starts really well from the beginning, isn't it, Lisa?
Yeah, this is like way better than the last time. I figured out Zoom settings, guys. It's been pretty exciting.
Yeah, and don't click the red button, and
Don't
everything's okay.
fucking click the red button. No, no.
Excellent. So yeah, everything's looking grand on this side. Yeah, just to reiterate a few things, thank you all for joining. And yeah, just say what Lisa said. This is the third webinar now. And again, big shout out to Lisa. Yay. She's been doing all of the behind the scenes work. And yeah, this can't happen without her. So she is all the brains to this. And yeah, thank you for you guys for joining. I hope that you can learn some more stuff through this seminar. And yeah, we can just get stuck straight into it.
Yeah.
Uh, Objective of this seminar, easy. We're going to discuss apps. We're going to discuss weather. We're going to discuss jumping in weather, good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to kind of compile all that stuff together towards the end, where we're going to start talking about flight planning and kind of put everything into practice. And this is, yeah, like we said, the third seminar. So kind of really trying to show as much as we can. So without further ado, we will start moving forwards. We're going to kick things off with apps. So we'll start straight there. Do, 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 do. And there we go. That's beautiful, nicely loaded up. So what's pretty cool about where we are these days in this day and age is we have so much information right at our fingertips, which is absolutely amazing. What we're going to do is we're going to run through a selection of really, really useful apps that are just generally going to help your base jumping overall. And we'll kick things off with the first one, which is in the top left here on that slide that you can see, which is Gaia GPS. So this is great for mapping and navigation. I really sort of suggest people to get onto this because it's super reliable. It's got a very, very detailed topographic map. It's fantastic for offline map downloads as well. Really good for route planning and tracking. And the coolest thing about this is, say if I go out and do a wingsuit jump and it's super cool, and I've saved out that guide GPS track, I can then pass that to my friends. I can export it in a file, send that over to them, and then they can use that so they don't get lost and go up to the correct exit point. So that's a really, really cool piece of equipment that we've got, very reliable, and it does not drain your battery too much on your phone like the older ones used to. That's a really, really cool one. The next one beneath that is Windy. I'm sure lots of people are looking at this going, yeah, I know Windy. I know what that does. But to reiterate for people that may not know, Windy is a very powerful real-time weather visualization tool used by many people, such as pilots, sailors. Again, it uses, or the advantage of this app is you can select wind at multiple altitudes. So this is great for sort of preempting, let's say, if we're going to go out and jump the Eiger and seeing what that sort of wind is doing at 10,000 feet, we can have a good idea of what the exit winds are doing. Also, what it does on Windy, which we are going to dive into a little bit later, is it shows pressure systems and isobars. And this is correlates directly to weather and wind, which we will discuss a little bit later on. And finally, I think personally the best thing about Windy is it's animated and it's super fun to look at. So it's great for the ADD folks amongst us to make something look really pretty, and you can really see wind, which is quite a cool thing. That's a fantastic app. If you don't have it, definitely worth it. The one beneath that is YR. This is a free weather forecast service from the Norwegian Meteorological Institute, and all they do is basically build an hour by hour sort of forecast, which will give you wind, temperatures, precipitation, really good and extended days of forecast, and it's very reliable for just jumping in Norway. But there is a clutch to this app. Anyone that has jumped in Norway knows that it rains a lot and knows that it's very, very wet. So what they typically do is, as you're using YR, you'll be flicking through it and you're going, bloody hell, it's just raining all the time. It's not the app that's broken. It's just Norway that is a little bit broken with the amount of rain that it has. Um, what is good though, it will show you the amount of millimeters dropped in the said hour, and it will give you a bit of timing for that. So you can kind of go, hey, why don't we go out jumping now when there's only a little bit of rain rather than later when there's going to be more? That's a very good one, is YR. And the next app, this is really reliable. I like to use this kind of worldwide, is Meteo Blue. It's a really good modeling app that provides pretty advanced forecasts, actually. There's loads of different features in it. You can have a look through the radar functionality or functions with it as well. The meteograms that they give you are really accurate, I would say up to like 72 hours, and then they sort of start to bleed out, which is kind of normal for a prediction. Again, worldwide, very, very reliable and actually has been really accurate. So, sort of combining these with Windy and Meteo Blue, you can get a very structured and safe reading. But for anyone kind of jumping in Switzerland or heading over maybe to Switzerland to do their first season this year, who knows? The app Meteo Swiss is fantastic. It's Switzerland's national weather service app. And fun fact, if you do download it, this app will also work in Brenta as well. You can kind of just get the side of Lago di Garda in there. So it's really good for those two areas. But key features for the Meteo Swiss app are super reliable, very, very good within Switzerland. It also has localized firn indicators, which we're going to talk about when we start discussing weather. We also put weather alerts out, such as earthquakes, hurricanes, any other bullshit stuff like that. And that not very often happen, obviously, over there. But as an app that is very reliable for Swiss jumping, it's a must. Okay, so that's Meteo Swiss, really, really reliable. And the next one is a Swiss-based app called Echo SOS. You can see that on the top right on the slide there. So this is an emergency communication app, and it connects you to rescue services or relevant rescue services that you might be seeking. And it uses your phone as a GPS location. So on my phone, I don't have it with me now, but when I open my phone and it goes onto the home screen, I have it so it's just right where my thumb can touch it quite easily. So if, for example, I was to land in a tree, maybe I've broken my femur or I'm jumping alone and I need some help, I can just open it up, tap on that, select the service, and then that will put it straight through to the needed emergency service. So it's pretty cool. I've heard rumors of it working internationally. So if anyone does have more information on that, that'd be cool to know. And there is an option now, I believe, where you can sort of integrate your InReach or your GPS into it as well, which is supposed to be pretty cool. All right, moving on. We have mountain forecast, which you can see in that little box just down there. And this is a weather forecasting site, specifically tailored to mountainous locations. So fantastic for jumping throughout the Alps, that big escarpment that goes, right across Europe, anywhere through there. Really, really good for the Alps jumping specifically. And what's cool with this is that you can, again, select altitudes to find out the winds on the mountains that are happening. So what I would typically do, let's say, for example, if we're going to be going up to the Jungfrau to jump some nice high mountain, I would use mountain forecast prediction as well as Windy's prediction, scale it up to see what the altitudes, the uppers winds are doing aloft, combine that maybe with a bit of Meteo Blue, and now you've got this really nice reading of everything. It will also give you wind, temp, precipitation as well for each of the elevation bands, which is pretty cool, and a really nice user-friendly layout. All right, the next one is B.A.S.E Beta. This has been something that, Brendan Weinstein built and did something absolutely incredible with. So props to you, Brendan. Thank you for doing that. Obviously, sadly, no longer with us, which is pretty sad. And, we hope to keep this alive for his sake because he built something amazing. And for anyone that doesn't have it, I would recommend downloading this app. It's really good as far as safety goes because you have accessibility to really good exit descriptions, approach notes with maybe files that have been saved out from Gaia, for example, information on local beta as well as landing, hazards, local nuances, etc. And for people going out to do their first jumps on specific sites, there'll be photos and oftentimes videos as well. So you can really get a lot of information through this app. Um, yeah, it's wonderful. It's so cool to see someone in our community build something that's so epic, and we will keep that alive for you, brother. And the next one now is glide ratio. This is a pretty fun app. Kind of just use it as a little bit of like a what's the word, like reassurance on exit as such. It's really easy. You open it up on your phone, it calibrates your phone, and then it's got like a little marker in it, and you can just shoot down to a marker, and it will give you the glide ratio to that marker. So, for example, if I'm going up to maybe a new wingsuit jump for the first time, and I just, I'm trying to gauge that first target. I can't quite see if it's in my glide ratio range or not. I'll just get my phone out and be like, oh, cool, it's like a 1.9 down there, wicked. It's just like a little bit of gives you a bit of soothing comfort just before you jump as such. Again, if you're jumping with doing more static line based jumps, it's pretty good for figuring out kind of all that trig and stuff as well. So that's pretty useful. And I think the last one on this list, yeah, is Exit Eval. This is really cool app as well that we've been playing around with. It's basically a manually based terrain profile creator. There's a few of them out there. We have baseline to use as well, but Exit Eval I've been playing with and I really enjoy it. And you can connect your fly site to your phone and then shoot the profile of the terrain and then overlay your GPS tracks from your fly site. Sort of start to build up this montage of information. So definitely download that, have a play around with it. If you're getting into Wingsuit Base, it's so cool to be able to understand all this information now and just apply it all the time. Because when it comes time to advancing or maybe opening your first exit, understanding this from the get-go is just fantastic. And that
Yeah.
is all of our apps just there. We have one more, which we've just added just before. So yeah, we have the Learn to Base Jump app. So anyone that's interested in sort of upping their skills, knowledge, education, the Learn to Base Jump app should have been live today. March 5th was our target. But I think World War III might have happened. So it did slow us down slightly, believe it or not, because the developer is out in Dubai. So hoping to get that up in the next couple of weeks. And I think, Lisa, am I right in saying that we will put like a little QR code maybe on the document that we send out for that, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'll stop sharing this for the moment, but in the guide that's going to get sent out, including these slide deck, all these are linked. So you can go check them out. And if it's a website, I linked that too. So you should have access to all these really cool tools. Um, we've also got some questions. I think we've sort of already touched on some of it, but let's just go over it again because these
Yeah.
are super thorough ways to validate what you're about to do. So we've got one from Dwayne Priestley here, and it's what weather app are you using for accurate wind conditions at different altitudes?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we've literally just spoken about. Hey, so good question, but just to reiterate, windy, really, really useful for just finding out that level of wind, and then I combine that with mountain forecasts, especially in the mountainous areas. Um, it's like it's sort of comforting knowing that one app says one thing, and then the other one can confirm it, and there's like two good readings. But for
Yeah.
sure, a combination of those two is good.
Yeah, for sure. An app that we don't have on here is another Windy, which is very confusing. There's like a windy.com that has apps. There's also a windy.app that has apps and a website. I didn't include it on the slide. I haven't really vetted it in Europe, but I've been using it in the States for a couple years now, and I'd say that's also a good one. A little bit on the pricier side, but you can customize all of your settings. You can save different ones. So I have like a skydiving view. I've got a base view. Obviously, they got different altitudes, different considerations. You can get the amount of rain per hour as well as low as like the millimeters.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like it a lot. It gives you the visuals. It looks just like Windy. It's a little bit of a ripoff, but it's got a lot of capabilities. And then you can also scroll through different models. And so I've noticed that various models will be accurate or less accurate to various regions. So I use different models for the Front Range in Colorado versus like Moab in Utah. And you can do that all through windy.app. So it's a cool one too.
nice, epic.
Yeah.
Epic
How,
stuff, mate. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We got one more question for apps and technology from Enrique Casarelli. Is there any type of technology that you think is valuable for all jumpers to develop good criteria?
I mean, probably the most significant sort of piece of technology that's been so helpful is just the fly site. It's like epic. It's quite funny, like,
Legit. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty much that because like when we were first starting flying wingsuits and stuff, everyone would go, oh yeah, I'm flying really fast. That was like it. That was
Yeah.
like the information. You're like, no, I'm fast. Like, trust me, I'm fast. So that's you didn't have like a number to go off. It was just like, oh, he's fast, and if you can stay with him, that was good. I remember I used to jump with a guy called Bruce Lee. His name was fantastic wingsuit pilot. He quit. He's still alive. He won the game, and prior to doing one of the World Wingsuit Leagues, I did training with him, and he had the fastest lap at the time, off of the track in China. And it was great because if you could stay with Bruce Lee, you knew that you were fast because he was fast Bruce Lee. Um,
Right.
so yeah, the fly site's really such a great advancement. It tells you so much information. And actually, prior to running courses or camps, I'll actually just have students send me just their fly site track alone. I can read through the data and I can say, hey, look, this is happening because your hips are probably bent. You're not applying enough arming pressure here, so you can really see quite a lot. Really, really good tool to get familiar with.
Yeah. Sick. That's awesome. Yeah, I use mine
Cool.
all the time, almost every jump.
Hectic. No, I'm stoked to hear that, mate. That's wicked.
Sick. I think we're going to talk about gear next, which is pretty cool. Obviously, there's a
Yep.
lot of gear we consider when we're doing any types of jumping. So let's check out the basic list of
Yeah.
what you might carry.
Yeah. So I think we wanted to add the gear selection into here or into this part of the seminar. It wasn't initially a plan, but we got so many questions at the very start of the first seminar that we thought, you know what, let's put it all together. We'll do a little section on it. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to kind of like nerd out a little bit on gear stuff because we love gear, don't we? It's great. It's what makes it all possible. All right, so let's talk pilot shoots real quick. We can use a 36-inch pilot chute totally. It's totally safe. It does work, but it's not, in my opinion, of best practice. And I would highly recommend that anyone that's sticking in the wingsuit and really going to go for it, up in that pilot chute size to like a 38 is definitely better. And the reason for it is because when we're doing our nice big powerful flares, we're really starting to slow that wingsuit down prior to the extraction of the pilot chute. Our airspeed vertically and horizontally lower. Okay, so I almost think about it like we're getting into an environment where, man, we could probably use a 42 slider down in some scenarios, right? But we're not. We're in a tunnel environment. So I would definitely suggest to go with a 38-inch pilot chute for wingsuiting. And then on top of that, what you'll naturally find is that other things are better, like heading performance will become better because that pilot chute is really doing its job of extracting the canopy. And as well as we won't be putting ourselves into a danger situation of not having enough drag, which could give us line dump, which could then kind of pay forward to giving us possible tension knots or major off headings and line twists. So I was thinking about like, imagine if you had like a massive cruise ship with a tiny little anchor, it would kind of just drag through the bottom of the ocean. It wouldn't really do its job. But if that big cruise ship had a big anchor that kind of just locked it right there, that's really what we're trying to sort of emulate. So definitely go up in the pilot chute size there because that was a topic of discussion. The next thing is the container. So if you're really going to kind of get your heart set and you're going to go for wingsuit base, and that's definitely what you want to get into, you've done maybe your two-piece tracking and your one-piece tracking, you're like, hell yeah, this is where I'm at. I'm ready to do it. Would definitely recommend people to go and buy a specific long wingsuit rig container. Okay. What you'll find is that the pull is just so much more comfortable. It's right where you want it to be. You're not trying to raise up over your back, trying to find a slightly higher container. And more than anything, it just gives you a lot more comfort. So often what I find is switching sometimes between jumps of, grabbing one rig, like a wingsuit rig, using that, and then quickly grabbing a shorter rig. you'll notice it like, oh shit, okay, I've got to kind of, really try and pull for this one. So definitely go for that. And I think what we've seen common factors of is that poorly fitted short containers have definitely contributed to preventable fatalities. So always just think of that in mind as well, is that you definitely want the right gear for the right job. And then what kind of comes hand in hand with that, obviously, is a canopy. I definitely recommend for anyone getting into it. Uh, a slider up canopy, obviously, is really, really good. And that can entail is just correct lightweight fabric. You can also go with lightweight lines such as Spectra or Vectran. And what you'll find is with wingsuit specific canopies is that sometimes on certain brands, the bridle attachment point is actually in a different position where it puts pressure more on the front B and the rear C. So there's tension through this section rather than direct nose inflation, because we are typically flying forwards through the opening phase, right? So another good thing as well, if you're stoked on it and your canopy skills are sort of up to par, it's kind of cool to downsize as well. I wouldn't say this is for everybody. It's just my opinion with it. But if you are getting into the mountains and you're very, very comfortable and you're often in pretty large landing areas, downsizing from, say, a 265 to a 245 is pretty nice. So you can load that canopy just a little bit more. It's only like 8% downsize. And what you'll find is because the line length is slightly shorter on the canopy, heading performance often gets a little bit better. And mainly hiking in the mountains for 3, 4, 5 hours is just a lot more comfortable. Again, it's not recommended for everybody, but it's definitely worth discussing. The next thing we got asked about was the wingsuits. Obviously, we're wingsuit based swimming. So yeah, this is a tricky one because now there's so many suits on the market and they're all built incredibly well. They all do amazing jobs. We're kind of spoiled for choice, which is pretty cool, right? The advice that I would give anyone is you're going to need more than one, and you're probably going to want more than two. So where I kind of go with this is you really do want a selection of suits, and there's a suit for the right job, right? So I'll always keep a two piece for going to Norway and doing a bunch of flips with friends. Always keep that one piece for why not? Because one pieces are awesome. And then you have a selection of wingsuits, the fun flippy one that you can backfly and do flips in, maybe a high performance one which has a little bit more glide for mountains, and then maybe one that's specifically for terrain flying. So I would say make sure to use the right suit for the right job. Experience from saying don't go terrain flying in a Havoc is like a bad idea. And maybe using a really, really high performance skydive based suit in the base jumping environment is also not necessarily the best idea. So yeah, there's a lot of suits out there these days, and they are all fantastic. Another one was stash bags as well. So there's some great stash bags on the market. Um, Definitely want to go with a stash bag that is a lightweight material. And its main features is you want to have really good waistband on it, as well as a chest band and adjustable lats if you can. Then everything's centered on your body. It just makes that hiking so much easier in the mountains. And without, sort of selling it, I really do love the adrenaline based containers. They're mountain ultralight mountain bags are just really, really well built. They're very, very light. And then when you actually go time to stash those into your suit or whether it's super easy. And you really don't notice that they're there. So that's a very good piece of equipment, plenty of pockets and etc. The next thing, I can see the little picture for it, is poles. That's right. You're getting into Wingsuit Base. You thought you were cool, and now you're going to go and buy some hiking poles. Um, yeah, and honestly, it'll probably be the best investment ever made. So, little fun facts on the hiking poles is that generally, if you use a hiking pole, it reduces the stress on your legs from the extra sort of support on your arm by about 15 to 17%. So if you use two, essentially you're kind of easing up your leg power by about 30%, which is really good, especially if you're doing long seasons or multiple or longer trips of 2, 3, 4 weeks. And you really just want to have more jumps, more repetition, and get to that exit point super stoked with like a sort of less fatigued body. definitely go and get some hiking poles. And my sort of $2 tip for anyone doing that is when you get measured for hiking poles, they'll sort of measure it where your hand is slightly up like this. I would always recommend to go about 5 centimeters shorter because we really only need them to go up. And if we've done our homework correctly and we're jumping in good weather conditions and we've used all the apps and we found everything out, you shouldn't be coming down with your hiking poles. They should be in your wingsuit. And lastly, like the wingsuits, there's loads of different types of hiking poles too. I personally really like the Giprons is the name of the brand. They're very, very light. They are pretty pricey. They're about 150 euros for a set. The first set I bought lasted 10 years, so I feel that that was a pretty good investment. And the nice thing with those is they collapse by a quarter. So you're looking for something that kind of collapses this big and will fit beneath your kneecap and your ankle in that sort of pouch on the wingsuit. And then that won't affect our push. So yeah, that's some fun facts on hiking poles there. The next one was gear for boots as well. Personally, I like to be jumping in 3/4 boots that are semi-flexible. You know, going on a full weight hiking boot with a quite a rigid sole can sort of take you away from the feeling of the suit as such. You know, a lot of us when we're skydiving in that skydiving environment, we're maybe wearing Vans or some sort of training shoe like that, and you can actually feel the suit through the pressure on your toes. As soon as you put something hard on your feet, just take away from that feeling slightly. I'd recommend going with a soft shoe, about 3/4, not a full, and then it adds a bit of protection for landing as well. We always used to use the 510 guides. Everybody used them all the time because they were fantastic at sticking to stuff when you were hiking. And now, since 510 have sort of gone bust, a lot of people have moved over towards the Sportiva. They're just really good, very, very light, super, super grippy. And I would recommend to everybody not to be using Solomons. I've seen multiple slips come from Solomons in different sort of mud and wet and crappy conditions. And that slips from inside the suit coming out the suit, as well as actual slips off exit points and kind of tumbling. So yeah, choose your boot wisely. I would recommend there. And the next thing was hydration of fuel. Again, this is really easy. It's just any water bladder is very, very good. There's tons on the market. The OGs was called Platypus. They're really good. They still make a really good, reliable and non-leaky bladder. Definitely go for like a 3 liter size. So, sort of buy a big one and then you can calculate your water needs as you need. And then as far as just general fuel in the mountains, I'll always be taking bananas for potassium, take some energy gels, pain au chocolats. If you're in France, you have to take them on your hikes. It's tradition to do if you're in France. But the main reason being is that you can actually squidge up a pain au chocolat and it won't damage the flavor. So it's actually quite good to take for hikes. And then a little tradition that we try and do is always take some chocolate. Take a chocolate bar out with you, and then right just before you exit, have a piece of chocolate, boost those glucose levels, and it'll just keep you focused and help you stay in the zone. And plus, it's chocolate, and everyone loves chocolate, so it's a win. And then I think our last thing on this slide here is just general jumping kit that came up. So there's a lot of questions about like what general jumping kit do we want to take with us? Recommendations for everyone: buy a laser. There's tons out there. Hartman Rector can get some pretty good deals on the Uni-Eye. Definitely order through him. It's a fantastic laser. Really, again, reliable. The battery lasts a long time. So definitely get into the laser side of things. We're not going to dive too much into like why we use it. That will, I guess, come at a later point. For sure as well, an InReach Mini, something where you can be tracked if you end up being in, technical mountainous regions where there is no cell reception. Definitely look at getting the InReach Mini. Is a really, really nice one. It's just so small you barely notice that you have it on you. And you will probably end up using it for a lot of other things rather than just, wingsuit base. If you're hiking in the mountains or rafting or anything like that, use it worldwide, which is fantastic. And then I always like to have a spare set of rubber bands, closing loops, pull-ups. They're not just for me, they're for everybody else. So you can sort of share that equipment between everybody. And then the last thing that I would probably carry in my kit for just personal is always a carabiner, like a 240 centimeter sling with a carabiner. just in case, maybe we're jumping somewhere and there's trees everywhere, and I do have a tension or offsetting and line twists, and I end up going, oh shit, I'm that guy in the tree. As soon as you land in the tree, I'll actually keep it my inside wing here, take it out, and then I can clip it onto chest strap, leg straps, the ABX system, put it into something, and now I'm safe. So definitely a nice piece of kit to have there. And my sort of recommendation with all gear stuff is anyone that's going, hell yeah, wingsuit base this year, I'm fucking doing it. I can't wait. I'm really, really excited about it. Really good training that you can do prior to coming over to Europe. I imagine if you're coming over to jump, would be to put all this in your wingsuit. Go and put your stash bag in. Go and jump in your boots. Put the poles in your wingsuit. Load it up with that spare gear. Jump with the bladder. Put everything in your suit. Wear that jacket. Now go wingsuit skydiving, and you'll see that there's a big difference in the controllability, the maneuvers that you can do, the way that your suit flies. There's quite a big difference. So that's some really good training to do with your gear before coming over.
Yeah, that's that's great. And if you want to be super cool and put a stash bag in your wingsuit for skydiving, when you land off, you have a stash bag. It's pretty sick. Might have
Yay!
climbed a fence last weekend. Pretty awesome time. And on that note, that adrenaline stash bag is on my list. It looked really epic. It was really nice. And Hartman is excellent. I've purchased through him as well. And he has tutorials as well. There are plenty of YouTube videos on how to use that laser. Um, as far as other considerations, I maybe not as critical in a place like Switzerland or Europe, but medical supplies, limited amounts of them, can be really useful, especially if you are wingsuit-based terrain flying in somewhere like Moab, where rescue could take a while or be delayed for various reasons for an extended period of time. If anybody is curious about that, like short list of like really critical items, there's an exit point episode number 19. Dr. Wilkes, he calls out about 3 to 5 things that are small, lightweight, easy to carry. I even keep them in my slather down kit because why not?
Yeah, that he knows so much stuff. Dr. Wilkes, he's a beast, eh?
So smart. Field rescue doctor and paraglider. Super
Yeah.
interesting episode. I would highly recommend it as if you're only going to listen to one exit point episode, honestly, that might be the one. We got some questions here. We got a bunch of questions about gear. They're pretty
Cool.
cool because they're all over the place.
Cool. Yeah.
So the first one here, again, Dwayne Priestley, he is curious about what radio communication brand you use for communicating to the landing area.
Yeah, that's a good one actually. My personal choice is I like to use the Rocky Talkies. Yeah, I find that a lot of base jumpers use Rocky Talkies. They're pretty good. They're well built. They're reliable. They kind of feel robust in your hand. The battery life's pretty good on them. And I did hear, I don't know if this is true, Lisa, but I did hear that apparently there's been the longest recorded distance between Rocky Talkies was 35 miles, like mountain to mountain. I don't know if that's true,
Oh,
but
I
if you
mean,
actually, yeah, if you look at their
yeah,
stats, it's pretty cool.
we definitely carry them in Moab because there's like no cell reception pretty much anywhere, and we will just like use them across canyons.
There you
We
go.
just,
Yeah,
we just it's pretty great. Everybody has their radio names, and so you just shout on the radio. I think my friend's is Disco Ball. So, Disco Ball, and you're literally just seeing if anybody's in the area. So they
nice,
are fun. They work really well. Uh, yeah, would highly recommend.
sick. Yeah, Rocky
Uh,
Talkies.
yeah, Rocky Duckies. We got another question here from Shutam Rajan. How does canopy choice affect survival margins in steep versus slider off environments? And then kind of attached to that from Paul Gerard is what is an ideal wing loading in a wingsuit alpine environment?
Oh, okay. All right. So a lot of information there. I guess I'll just try and break it down simply. So, good wing loading, and one that we try to kind of always stick to is point 0.7. So that's like probably familiar or sounds familiar is to use point 0.7. So for example, like if I was in a more wingsuit based like alpine environment, I'm happy to kind of bring that down and that's sorry, or increase that wing loading ever so slightly. like I explained before, it's I prefer having like a canopy that's just a bit more loaded. And the reason for it kind of is this, right? So we always said zero point 0.7 forever on the books is because yes, we want to load the canopy correctly, but the main clutch being we don't want to be flying at the object fast for when we or if we inevitably hit it, right? Now, with the wingsuiting, what we have sort of enabled ourselves to do is to fly out to a safe landing area and then deploy the parachute. So, kind of my look at it is, well, you know what? I really love flying parachutes anyway. I'm just going to downsize slightly because I know that I can have like a bit better heading performance if it's loaded a bit better. So I'll actually go from like a 265 to 245. And all that's doing, I mean, that's like an 8% increase. It's really not that much. It's not like downsizing in skydiving. If you're going like from a 135 to a, 119 or something like that, if it's like a high performance based canopy, it's a little bit different. Um, so yeah, I hope that kind of explains it. So it's really just it's personal preference more than anything else, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think a lot of this stuff kind of comes down to that. But if I give a number as zero point 0.7, I don't mind going to like a 0.78, getting all crazy.
Cool. A few more for gear. Such a popular topic.
Yeah.
Ed Cracknell. Yeah, hey Ed. What do you think of the PPD drone?
Ah, cool. Okay. So yeah, Ed, I like the way you slipped that in there. That's a great question. So for anyone that doesn't know, Ed Cracknell, he's awesome. He is the original innovator of the PPG drone. He's basically combined technology essentially and has a paramotor, which is then going to flip over into a drone and fly back down. So we could use the paramotor to basically get up to an exit point, which removes the hike, and you get to do like a two sport thing, which is pretty sick. So yeah, really excited to see the space develop because this is it, man. This is the world we live in. Things just get better and better and better and better. And if you think about it too, imagine if you could just paramotor up like a 4 hour hike in like 15 minutes. You could do like three or four a day. So your sort of amount of jumping that you can do gets higher. You're flying with a canopy. I love it. And it's great. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, sweet. All right. Laser question. Elijah Weber, what's the best way to learn how to use a laser for evaluating wingsuit jumps?
Okay, so I mean, that's the best way to answer that is there's not really like a course or a manual as such on how to use them. There's a selection of videos on YouTube that can be used, and to reiterate what they said, Hartman Rector's put some stuff out as well, which is super useful. My recommendation would be to essentially get one, get out there and start using it. That's kind of where we're at. And it's quite interesting. The more I've sort of been running this seminar with you, Lisa, as I kind of recognized that, like, oh, there's not a lot of information on this yet. So it's kind of motivating me to maybe put something else together for the future, just to share some words of wisdom and get someone in like Hartman, who just has a huge wealth of knowledge with that, just so we can share that as an educational piece for people to have access to.
Yeah, yeah, that would be awesome. I went to one of his talks like in Moab last year, and it was pretty interesting. All right, we've got a couple more here for gear. Arvidas, do you have a winter glove recommendation?
Uh,
I think this is interesting because I hate gloves, but like I jump in Colorado all year. So
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll be honest, I don't have a winter glove recommendation because all the jumps that I have done in freezing conditions, like cold, I just keep my gloves on right until I jump, and I'm like, because
that's
I
what I
like to
do.
feel the pilot chute,
Yeah,
I'm like,
same.
ugh.
Yep.
Actually makes my hands sweat thinking about wearing gloves.
Yeah,
Um,
me too. I'm like, well,
yeah,
yeah, I usually just take them off and just like
yeah.
go.
The only time I have used some I've used very, very, very like the thin liner ones, like the initial glove before the big glove. I've used them a few times when it's been proper cold. And I have also used once it was like a test, like the mechanics gloves or like the tattoo gloves. You
Mhm.
can use those and you still feel like you have everything, but it can just reduce like a little bit of sort of wind chill as such.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. All
Sorry, I
right, we
don't have
got
a correct answer for that, dude.
we have one last gear question here. and I'm just going to apologize ahead of time for this name pronunciation. Geez, gosh, which solution do you think is safer, B.O.C. Stow or Violetta Pouch?
Ooh, I was really curious about this
Spicy.
actually. Yeah, so the Violetta pouch. Cool. Yeah, this gets thrown around quite a bit actually in forums and talks and stuff. There's a few people who are really kind of pro it, which I love. I think it's great. So yeah, the Violetta pouch or going stowed. So is a really good question. Definitely a lot of
Actually,
avenues to sort of follow with it, you know?
maybe we should stop because I feel like a lot of people probably don't even know what the Violetta Pouch is. Could you just give like a little description of like where it sits? Because it's
Yeah,
not a
so
BOC.
yeah, if we kind of think about a container and a wingsuit, what we do is when we actually go for the extraction of the pilot chute, we have to reach over the back of the wing, and then we have to go to the BOC, and then we can actually, throw out that pilot chute into clean air. Then the opening process can happen. The Violetta pouch, essentially, the ones that I've seen, they're really, really cool. Um, they will route the bridle up the side back of the wing and then across the back side of the leading edge. So it sounds crazy, and you can use like a form of magnets to go through it, and it will be nice and protected, sort of in a sleeve. And then once it gets to the back side, kind of where the gripper is, there's a little pouch. It almost looks like a pasty or like a half pie. And in there, you'll pack the pilot chute in there, and there'll be a Teflon cable that's wrapped around it. And that Teflon cable will be attached either to thing, thumb, hand. The idea is once you've flared, you would extend the hand where the Teflon cable is, and it will actually release the pilot chute into clean airflow, and then the opening sequence can happen. Um, and yeah, so there's like pros and cons to both. Okay. And I think it's actually a really good question because it could have prevented accidents from happening. So I'd say kind of short answer on my side would be there have been a handful of fatalities from wingsuiters, obviously not finding their pilot chutes. And those deaths probably would have been prevented if they had been using a Violetta pouch. That would be like a way to sort of look at it, right? But and so on the flip side of things, if everyone was using a Violetta pouch for the last 20 years, I wonder how many accidents we'd have seen from people misrouting bridles, etc., not being able to pull. And the reason that I sort of would answer it like that is because I had a friend who had a Violetta pouch, installed it, everything was done correctly, and he was like flying along, and he was like, "And go," and nothing happened, zero. And he was like, "Oh shit!" And obviously, you've only got one parachute because he's base jumping with it. Go, go, go. Doesn't happen. He ended up bringing both of his hands over his back and top of the container, finding the Teflon cable, extracting it, and then dropping the pilot chute out, etc., etc. So I would say that there are two ways to go. I don't think there is a right one. I don't think there's a wrong one. And again, it's at the end of the day, it is your personal choice with a lot of this. So my personal choice is I don't use a Violetta pouch. I don't typically use like a really, really high performance suit. And I sort of rely on the thousands of stowed jumps and wingsuit flights to sort of get me through it. So yeah, it's a tricky one because
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong. Like it's you have to
Yeah.
just do what you're really comfortable with. And again, it's like it's mitigating risk is a lot of base jumping, especially wingsuit base jumping. And if that's something that you are worried about, then going down the route of a Violetta pouch is definitely an option, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. It's always good to keep in mind that, as base jumpers, even though this activity has been happening for decades, like all our gear is still experimental. And
Yes,
so
yeah,
we're just agreeing to try these things. And anytime you have a new set of gear, a new technology come out, like there's just going to be less proof or less statistical like significance basically to go one way or
yeah,
the other. And so you get to make your
yeah,
own choice.
yeah. That's it. It's kind of the fun part, right? There's no right answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely
Yeah.
see where it could have been like with friends that have died. If they had had it, you'd have been like, well, it probably would
Yeah.
have been really good, you know? So yeah,
Yeah. Cool. All right.
good
We're
topic.
not gonna, yeah, I think it's a good topic. Gear's great. We could go on for gear about ever forever, probably. We're all gearheads
Hmm.
for sure. But I'm pretty excited about the next one because maybe I'm a super nerd. I just kind of wanted to make a quick statement. We're not going to do live questions on this one, but considering it for the future. So all these questions were pre-submitted. Uh, and our next topic is weather.
Oh shit.
I know there are probably some people out there like, oh God, weather's terrifying. I
Yeah.
think I think we're gonna I think we're gonna show it in a way that's more accessible. I really like weather. I'm a nerd. I think Sam's probably a nerd as well. So
Yeah.
we're pretty stoked on this one.
Yeah. Let's do some weather stuff. And for anyone listening, don't be like, ugh, weather. Just like I've really tried to like put this into categories of like simplicity and really just easy ways to learn it, all right? And we're going to do it with really cool pictures too, which is going to help us. Okay. So first is with weather. Knowing and understanding it is critical for this sport. And it's kind of like you sign up for the sport, you go and do it. You're going to be wingsuit base jumping. You got to know some stuff about the weather. It kind of just goes hand in hand compared to base jumping as such, just normal base jumping, just with a parachute, not maybe in the mountains, maybe bridges and slightly simpler objects. You don't need as much information or knowledge about the weather. But as soon as you get in that alpine environment, things change and we need to know what we're doing. So we are going to kind of nerd out about this. And to kick things off, we are going to talk about two common types of wind, and they are called anabatic and katabatic. And these are our cool pictures and slides here. So on the left-hand side, we have our anabatic wind. This is really easy to explain. The sun comes out, it goes, good morning, and it comes out and it heats the face, okay? And that warm air rises up the slope. That wind that comes up the slope, we're going to refer to as anabatic, okay? And what this does, it creates upslope wind that we just explained. It will give a lift in certain areas. So think paragliding, right? And what will happen is active air mid-morning to afternoon is sort of our timed zone. Okay, so that's when everything's happening. And what's cool is with wingsuiting, and why this is we're talking about it, is that thermal lift or anabatic warm lifting air can drastically improve our start performance, which we're going to talk about later on. And again, it shouldn't be relied on if we're using numbers and terrain profiles. But it's just good to know that if you've got a nice anabatic bit of wind coming up, your start's probably going to be a bit better than it would be compared to katabatic, which is our second type of wind. So that is the wind that we experience kind of in the evening, the very, very early morning. And this is cold air that sinks downhill, as you can see in that picture. And what that does, it creates kind of like a downslope flow. We refer to it as drainage winds because it's trying to drain out. And what this does, as far as our start performance, is pretty much the opposite. So it gives us kind of shitty, sinky conditions, which are not great for our start performance. So they're the two types of winds. They're very, very easy. Anabatic, katabatic. Try and remember them however you need to. They're really, really cool. They are our friends. Well, anabatic is our friend. And what we often find is wingsuiting, especially like through the this can be anywhere in the world actually, not just in the Alps itself. But what we'll find is the kind of best time to jump is just as that anabatic wind is just kicking in. That is the best time to be jumping. It's going to give you really nice start performance. There's not going to be super loads of thermals on the line. It's great. It's wonderful. So that is our first part of weather. We have four more to go. Sorry. The next one is our windward and lee side. Okay. So windward is the side or face. You see the picture there, where basically the wind hits first, creating rising air and lifting conditions. As you can see here, green arrow goes up. That is our what we refer to as our windward side. And we're going to show you a picture in a second as well. Kind of put the two together. And then on the opposite side is our lee side. So this is our sheltered side. And typically what we find here is we have, descending air with rotors, turbulence, blah, minging stuff, not good stuff for flying wingsuits in or exiting in, all right? But with that in mind, for our windward and lee side, many world-class jumps, like all around the world, you end up jumping into the lee side, depending on the time of day. So there is a clause with this, and we'll refer to that lee side as the sinky side. So it kind of opens up questions of like what time is best to jump, which direction do we want to jump, but it's more about understanding that. So its short answer is we really want to be jumping with the into the windward side. It's always going to be giving us a better start performance and just smoother flying. And we can combine that with that anabatic cycle of wind as well. So I think we've got some pictures here. Just bring those up. So these are super cool. For anyone that's not familiar with this jump or maybe hasn't seen it before, it's called Varan West. It's in France, in the French Alps. It is a wonderful, wonderful jump. It's epic, actually, and it's a beautiful hike. It's just the perfect wingsuit base jump. And as you can see, we basically have two images. So the first drone image that we've taken is from the front, okay? And you can see on the wall where the green suit is, it's very dark, okay? It's not lit up at all. So that is that sinky, poopy, not good side, okay? That bad side. And you can see in the background, all the way back to the mountains, we've got that sort of prettier side, okay? That windward side, which is much, much nicer, where that lift would be happening. And then the picture to the right-hand side is the same exit. It's just taken the other way around. So you can actually see when we exit from Varan West, we actually jump into the lee side side. And it just means that our start performance isn't very good. Now, there is a clause to this is that what happens if we were to jump it not in the morning? It means that we would be jumping it in the afternoon or late evening. Means that that side can essentially change around. But what we end up finding is that if you do go jump in the evening, there's been so much activity through that valley through the day, heating and heating and heating, that flying conditions get kind of bumpy. They're not trusting. So what we like to try and do is go up there with the correct suit to have a really good start, and then we can fly a nice smooth line all the way back down to the landing area. So there are two exit directions, or our lee side and windward side um, exit points there that we can jump. And then we're going to go on to, I think we've got a picture for this next one. Hey, Lise, for the clouds, right? Yay. So
Yeah.
clouds on exit. This is really simple. I'm going to break it down. When it rains, the moisture remains in the earth and the ground. So it absorbs, it sits down there. And then suddenly the sun pops out in the morning, it starts heating the ground up. And now all that moisture wants to lift, it wants to come out of the ground. I think about it like a kettle that's been sort of heated up. That then creates moisture clouds, and those clouds really, they're buggers. Just want to hug onto the closest exit face that's near them. And the reality is, what you'll find is if we've had loads and loads of rain, it takes a few days for that sun to kind of go through its cycles and get rid of that moisture before there's not really much moisture around, which kind of create those clouds near the exit point. So what we can do is I'm just going to look at this picture here and sort of talk through it. So you can see little Anna here in a pink wingsuit just there. This picture was taken. It's a great example from last year in one of the camps. We had rain, unfortunately, through one of the camps, and we were deciding, where do we want to go and jump? Well, I put it to the guys. I said, look, we will jump tomorrow, even though it's been raining, but we've got to pick where we go. We're going to need an exit point in the morning that's not facing the sun. We're going to want that lee side where the sun's not hitting it, and we should be able to get a jump in. So we opted to go to this exit point, and yes, we got, I think, 2 or 3 in that day. But you can see on the other side of the valley, there is another base jump right there where we put that big circle around. There's another exit point there, and that stayed in cloud for the entire day. It was just sat there. So it's kind of good to know is that, even if it has been raining and the conditions aren't super optimal, you can still get jumps in just with a bit of basic knowledge from understanding which way the exit is facing. As simple as that, right? Good stuff. All right. So we're going to move on to another bit, which Lisa really loves talking about. She might get so excited, she might have to say some stuff. So we're going to talk about, and this is a great slide for it. I love it. It's a fantastic slide. It really shows everything. We're going to talk about high and low pressure systems. So let's talk pressure systems. All right. Everyone these days just looks at their phone and goes, yep, my pictures look good. I'm going base jumping. And they head off into the mountains. Not everybody, some people, right? That's fine. It's good to know. But why don't we actually know a little bit more about what is happening? So a huge component to that stuff is the weather stability or instability that is created from high or low pressure systems. What we have is a high pressure system, as you can see here. It's got the green tick. It's good. We'll find that high pressure systems kind of have a bit of sinking air. They're generally really, really stable and often provide for very smooth and good flying conditions. That is a high pressure system. Think high is good. And then a low pressure system is rising air, is boo. Can be very, very unstable, super high winds, and very, very increased turbulence as well. So just remember high is good, low bad. Um, and a little fun fact about pressure systems is that they rotate differently depending on which hemisphere you're in. So northern hemisphere, I believe that is correct. So the pictures that we have on the uh, right hand side, you can see from the image taken from windy northern hemisphere, they're spinning that way and not the other way. So it's kind of cool. So I think it's
I
really sweet to know that
I
information, right?
I like these. The reason I like these so much is because I do live like next to the mountains, right? The Rocky Mountains are right there. They're really not far. If I use these for slider down, because if you live here and you're finding that you're not getting jumps because you're showing up at things and you have shifting conditions and it's just like not consistent, it's completely almost inaccurate to what you expected, you might want to consider whether we are in a high or low pressure system
It
because
sounds like you may have been experienced a low one with that.
I may have done this in my first season. I may have been like, well, why aren't these winds working? And then I may have asked some questions and then gone to learn about this. And I will say, is way better if
Yeah,
you pick the high one.
it's cool. It's really rad to just look at the models as well.
Yeah.
And again, this is where Windy just comes in, right? And you can just see it. You're like, oh shit, look at this low pressure system working its way towards, let's say, our jumping site. That's why on Wednesday, for example, it's like gonna rain and it's like really weird. Oh, okay, so it's the pressure system that's doing that, right? So it's actually quite cool to understand how it works. And then the high pressure systems are kind of, I always think about them like bouncers. They're like, you're not getting past us, boys, like on a door. And the low pressures are like, I want to come in. You're like, no. Nah. So that's kind of like the way that they like aggravate each other as such. Yeah, they're really cool. So yeah, wind strength and pressure differences come from our low pressure systems, and they are measured with isobars. They're the little bits of lines that you can see. So you can see on the low pressure systems out towards the North Pacific there, um, they have way more condensed isobars. That just means that the pressure around it is just increased. Okay, so the further dispersed they are, like the high pressure systems over the United States, just there, you can see that it's much calmer environment for us to be wingsuit flying in, which is sick. Yeah, so yeah, definitely load up windy. I think it's the cool way to learn the pressure systems, just on kind of like a side note here, is if you are, going through your apps and you have a look at stuff and you're looking at the pictures and you're like, oh, that's weird. It's like really bad weather next week. I wonder what's happening. And if you're onto windy, you can load up the pressure systems and you can scroll through it and you can see exactly what's happening because that's basically what's built in our kind of atmosphere. It's just these really, really cool pressure systems. All right, we nerded out enough of that. Okay, we're gonna nerd harder, I think, and we're gonna move on to something called foehn winds. Multiple spellings for this: FOHN, FOEHN. European word, in case you didn't know already. And if you haven't heard of it, that's great because if you end up jumping over in Europe and you do hear about it, that's bad. So if you do hear people go, or maybe you're in a gondola somewhere and you hear some paraglider go, "Oh yes, the foehn wind," and you're like, "What do you say?" That's a really good indicator that you probably shouldn't be jumping. Okay, and in short, what is foehn wind? Foehn wind is just warm, dry wind that rushes down the backside of the mountain. And essentially, how this happens is trying to explain it as simply as possible while looking at this picture. I know there's a lot going on in that picture. But foehn winds basically um, form, excuse me, when pressure differs across a mountain range. Okay, so think Alps, escarpment of mountains that go from east to west, west to east across Europe. And air moves from high to low pressure. Okay, so that's the direction it's moving and gets forced over terrain. So if we have a pressure system north and a pressure system south that's a high or a low or low and a high, and they go towards each other, they start to kind of fight and then one will win. And that disbursement of air will get thrown across the backside of the mountain, we refer to that style of wind as a föhn wind, which is why it's warm. Okay, super turbulent. Um, if anyone that has not spent a lot of time in the Alps, when I lived there in Chamonix for whenever it was, we used to get föhn winds that come through, and everyone would go, "Make sure you close your shutters." And you're like, "What?" Make sure you close your shutters. And the shutter windows, you'd have to make sure that they were closed because the föhn winds would come through so quickly that they'd rip them off. So you're talking like, 60 plus mile an hour warm wind. And it's just a bizarre feeling to be in, but super cool. So anyone that's jumping over in Europe, they're created from pressure systems. And that sort of escarpment that runs across Europe, that's where they predominantly happen. And if we want to nerd out with it a bit more, what you may have seen in that previous slide that we had up with the windy was the ISO bars where they're connected. I don't know if we can go back to that one before, Lisa. That's a pain. Maybe just
Boy,
bring it up.
we can try. Good.
Uh, Sorry, mate. Going off cuff
No,
here, eh?
you're good. You're good. It's spontaneous.
So you can see this kind of like just how a measurement is measured. Where the ISO bars are condensed around, say, the low pressure system, we measure those with a reading called a hectopascal. And that hectopascal has like a normal standard across like a sea level pressure, which is 1013 HPA. So that's what you'll see. If you see those numbers when you go through windy, you're like, oh, okay, they're hectopascals. That's what it is. It's just it's a unit of measurement that we use. A low pressure system will start or remain in a low pressure system around 1,000, and then a high pressure system of about 1025. So there's not really that much pressure difference in order to create a lower or high pressure system. It's like really, really cool. It's like super sensitive, and if you're learning about weather and trying to get into it, definitely recommend going to do a paragliding course, because with skydiving, we don't get taught like loads and loads of stuff. With base jumping, if your mentor knows a lot about weather, then you're going to know a lot about weather. But a paragliding course, a sailplane course, or go and get into your pilot's license and get into the theory of that. And that is, oh, that was a lot even for me to take in with a lot of the weather stuff as well. I
Like
think that's this. That's this.
that's
Do we nerd out on the weather then?
that's we nerded out really hard on weather.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I like it. I would be curious on anybody's feedback on that. If you feel like you could take away anything from weather that you didn't know before. Uh, we have one weather question
What?
by from I know just one. I know we're like what the hell? I got so many questions about weather still. Alex Vitrici, what are the most dangerous situations caused by the weather?
Probably just generally what will happen is people get caught out in the mountains from like say just not knowing what's actually happening in them as far as weather goes, and then by the time you do a 4 hour hike or a 3 hour hike, you're like fucked, and you're like, oh god, it's just safer for me to jump in shit conditions and hike down. So
Yeah.
then you end up kind of jumping in shitty conditions, I guess, is like a danger. Most of the time though, that reflects to like most people, I would say, don't jump in heavy cloud because you can't see. So it's really stupid. You're like, well, I don't have instruments. I can't fly IFR through this. Rain is just rain as long as it's not associated with anything. So like we were saying, we're using YR in Norway, you're gonna jump in rain. Like, okay, you're gonna get wet, things dry. That's awesome. Probably the biggest killer, so to answer the question here for you, is just crosswind. That is like the worst fucking thing to ever jump in is just a crosswind. Yeah, which I guess we're going
Well,
to talk about pretty soon as well.
we are. We're gonna get
So
more into that.
yeah,
Yeah. Cool. All right. That's weather. That's weather. Pretty great.
close that book.
Nice. Alrighty. Our next section is pretty exciting. Uh, I think it's cool. We got some fun photos. We're going to talk
Yeah,
about start performance.
yeah, start performance. It's
Yay.
cool. I really like some of the like things I really enjoyed about doing this seminar is getting all the jargon. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
jargon that we use.
Yes.
And then it's like trying to put like, oh, okay, this is what that means, or this is what we're discussing. So it's really cool. And start performance is definitely something that gets thrown around. And let's get stuck into it. I think we've got some pictures and stuff, don't we, Lisa, for this next
Oh
bit,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
So yeah, start performance, wingsuit base is yeah, it's basically just paramount to having a successful jump. And if we were to put it super simple, good exit, good jump, good start performance, good jump. All right. So we kind of break it down in your first, if your first 3 seconds, right, are clean, stable, powerful, the rest of that flight just becomes controlled and predictable, and you can get into that flow state, right? But on the other hand, if your first 3 seconds are kind of messy and you're playing catch up immediately and it's not really where you want to be, then that's not good. Okay. So start performance essentially means being able to get that suit flying with the shortest amount of vertical altitude lost. So we're trying to just get it flying as fast as we can. Now, there are a few things that we can do to make that happen. And we're going to discuss not everything, I would say, essentially, but the most critical ones. Okay. And the first thing to this, as we can see in that picture on the left hand side, is foot positioning. Okay. It's a great picture here. And the reason I love this picture so much is because of his foot positioning. How far those toes are over that nose is just epic. Okay. Every single time, no matter what, whenever you go out for a jump, and it doesn't matter what style of jumping you're doing, if it's not a running exit, which you probably won't be doing in a wingsuit anyway, you just want to make sure that your toes are way over the edge. Okay. So as we roll, we are pushing off the ball of our foot from that vertical part of the wall. Okay. And when we initiate that exit, it just gives us such solid foot placement. Okay. Um, so many people have slipped, tumbled, falled, and rolled because their toes simply have not been over the nose. Okay. And in my years of jumping, I've definitely seen people and said, you might want to put your toes over the edge of it there. And he goes, people will go, oh, I'm scared. I'm like, well, you need to man the fuck up because what we're doing, we need to do with confidence. And this is a high exposure sport. Get those toes over the nose, and that will greatly help your start performance straight off the bat. Okay. Next part is the middle picture just here is our exit angle. Okay, this is something that takes time, just takes time. Initially, when I'm teaching wingsuit FJC for first jump students as such, I'll have them exit in a slightly different position to when they're going to be 100 jumps down the line, just as a sort of like intro to it, right? But once we kind of get into the thick of it, for a really great start, you're just looking for the correct angle. And I would say that everyone's angles are slightly different. And that becomes basically because of suit, size, height, weight. Okay. But they're all within like a certain realm of angle. Okay. And what we're aiming for is an exit or an exit angle that isn't too head high or head up and not too head low, forcing us basically to go slightly head low after the exit, right? We need it just right. Again, to explain this, there's not exactly the perfect answer, but it just take time. And if we're kind of like looking at this picture in the middle just here that Lisa's got loaded up on that slide, you can see Ed, who's beneath me just here, his legs are slightly raising up, okay, and his exit angle is kind of a little bit too steep, whereas my exit angle above him is I'm trying to hold that position for as long as I can. I'm applying my arming pressure, which we'll talk about in a second, got nice straight legs, and I'm trying to get that suit flying, a foot underneath the exit point. Okay, so that's just something that will come with time. And again, it takes a while to master. You're not going to learn it overnight. So yeah, that's our exit angle. And the next thing is, and this is probably one of the most sickest pieces of information to use for people who are wanting to increase their start performance is actually your arm wings. Okay. For a fast start, you need your arm wing pressure early. Okay. So at exit, you're flying in very low relative airspeed. Okay. By applying arm wing pressure, okay, you're increasing the drag as such, right? And you're forcing the suit to start flying. Okay. What this does is as we're getting air into the suit, it starts to drive it forward. So that's actually how we get that subterminal start, believe it or not, is from correcting the correct amount of arm wing pressure. Okay. Once we are flying, though, it's critical to basically remember that We don't want to stay in that sort of forced delta position. We need to actually just reduce our arming pressure slightly because we can put it into like a slight stall. So again, most people, when coaching and sort of guiding and stuff, they won't have enough arming pressure. And I'll be like, say on a debrief with Tom actually here, hey man, like, yeah, everything's great. Exit angle's perfect. Power of the push was great. Everything's super controlled. You've got a slight arch here. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that D arch, which we'll talk about in a second. Get rid of that arch, put a D arch in, so our body position is flat. Dude, apply a little bit more arming pressure, and then neck minute, you're off on the next jump, and suddenly you're getting these amazing subterminal starts, and it's really just applying a good bit of arming pressure, so that greatly helps people with their start performance.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm kind of just noticing now that like this is a good angle. You can see how like clean this looks. This is also really helpful because you can see where
Yeah,
your hand is in relation to like your hips.
and you wouldn't like, well, actually, at least that's really good that you've kind of noticed that, but you wouldn't say with where my angle is with my hand, you wouldn't be flying like that, would you?
No,
Your
yeah,
arms aren't like,
exactly. Exactly. Like
forced here.
you're more relaxed. Yeah.
It's like you're trying to kind of cup the air as such. Is another way to sort of put it in something. All right, what else we got? We got another little wicked slide here. So this is talk about legs here, legs and hips, straight legs, power. Think about a slick tracker having bent legs. You ain't going to be going forwards. Okay, so you need those legs nice and straight. Basically, if we do have bent legs and we're not initiating sort of that power in that leg wing, we are allowing air to sort of bleed around us, and it would delay that inflation. Okay, so good hot tip: keep those legs nice and straight, nice and powerful as soon as you pushed off. Lock those quads up, tighten those calves up, point those toes. Really try and pressurize that suit as soon as you can, and just think like nice and strong with your legs, and that will also help with start performance. Just trying to get us flying as fast as we can. And the next one, which we kind of just lightly spoke about, was just hips here as well. So you don't want to have like an arch in your body position when exiting for a better start performance. It's better to kind of be flat. When coaching, I'll always recommend people to kind of de-arch, because if they de-arch, they'll actually be flat. Is a good way to sort of practice on that. Arch body will just spill air, and I like to think about it. I know it sounds real stupid. It's just the way my brain works sometimes. It's like a bent aeroplane. Like if an aeroplane wasn't flat and it was like this, it's not doing the right thing. So we want everything straight. If anything, slightly de-arched, so it just put us flat. Yeah. And engage those hips, man. Maybe go do some salsa lessons so you know where they're working. And our last thing for our start performance is going to be, yeah, great picture here on the right hand side, um, is just identifying that first target or that marker selection, which we spoke about in webinar 2. So yeah, focus on your exit as soon as you're doing all this stuff, and you've got your legs straight, your hips are good, your arming pressure, your exit angle, your push is good, and all those things, toes over the nose. Target. That's what we're after, and you're going full commitment, full drive towards that first target, trying to generate speed. And that's kind of it. So yeah, it's just being conscious of all these things. You may have just like hiked somewhere and you get to exit and maybe you're a little bit puffed out and you're a little bit tired, and now you're like, fuck me, like do all these things to try and be good. Like, yeah, you do. That's why we're doing this stuff, because you want to be good. And I think sort of to wrap up the start performance stuff, it's really just, yeah, being conscious of those factors for sure will help start performance. And yeah, if I was to tell anyone, like if you're going to take two things away from it, toes over the nose for sure. That is greatly important, and just a good push, and just apply that arming pressure slightly in front of you, and you will be off to the races.
Yeah, I think this is one of the elusive things. People are always asking, how do I improve my start performance?
Yeah,
Uh, and so we got some questions about
cool,
that too. We have Vincent Tessier. How can you practice the perfect wingsuit exit before you attempt your first wingsuit base jump?
true. That's a good question. Obviously, you can do some pull training. That's one way to do it. It doesn't really emulate the best. Like, it's not you're not really emulating it. It's just like I'm jumping in a cold swimming pool and hurting my balls. Like that's really what you end up doing. Smashing your chin on the water. So it's not that great. But things have changed. I had a friend Dan and May go out to Switzerland, and he used a rope swing, bungee rope swing, and he did like
Mm-hmm.
10 jumps off of it. And the guys were like, "Yeah, hell yeah, we'll help you out with that." They've been doing it a bit more recently. So just emulate it. And then he also gained it out a bit too, so he could just feel what it was like, which is kind of sick. And then when it came time to his FJC, he's like, "Dude, I've done 10 exits already. I'm fucking set." I was like, "Sick." And then he had a great start. So that's one way. The other way, I've just seen this. We got a really wicked jumper in the community called Harvey. He's from Spain. He has just started advertising that exact training. So if you're considering it, for sure, reach out to Harvey on Instagram. He's wicked. He's super friendly, really knowledgeable, a great jumper as well. All round, very, very good jumper. So yeah, there are ways to do that
Yeah.
before going full beans.
Yeah, that's sick. The like bungee exits look awesome.
Hell yeah,
Uh yeah, we got one more from Marius Chuta. What is the main reason for fucking up your wingsuit exit?
classic. I mean, almost like I would almost say the opposite of everything we just spoke about, right? Like in some ways,
Yeah,
like okay, don't put
yeah,
your toes over nose, like
yeah.
fall off the exit, look down, bring your arms behind your head, like okay, kind of like that.
Legs
Maybe that's a
in.
little
Yeah.
legs in, like that. You're gonna fuck it up. That's probably like too literal, right? But I guess like probably fuck up the exits the most is probably people pushing way too hard is like a thing, and then they look down, and then as that happens, push too hard, look down. The inertia of the legs kind of come over the head, and then you end up in like a really steep position. Um, that's one thing. I would say the other thing that we've again spoken about just before was jumping in just in bad weather conditions. Um, that's where people will fuck up their exit. You know, if you jump in a crosswind and then doing like a high performance start,
Yeah.
it's no bueno. And you get
Yeah.
flipped on your back, whatever.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we're about to get into that. We're about to
Yes,
talk
we
about
are.
exiting and
I was
weather.
like, are we? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
cool. We are.
dude.
Sweet.
Your content. I'm just here to share.
Yeah. All right. Are we doing more questions or are we good there?
That's it.
Okay.
There's most of the questions were the same. Like, how do you practice it? A lot of people ask that.
Perfect. All right. Oh, which brings us on to our next thing, exiting in weather. Amazing. All right. Yeah, we're kind of getting through it now. We're like on the
I
tail
love
end of
it.
this seminar. So yeah, let's push forward. Sort of talk about this stuff right here.
Hmm.
Here we go. So yeah, exiting in weather. We're going to talk about pre-flight planning as well after this. But basically, you want to be jumping in good weather. It's really, really simple. And if you do your homework correctly with your pre-flight planning, checking all your windy and your apps and all that stuff and your pictures, most likely, if you do know that stuff, you're going to be jumping in pretty good conditions generally. Okay. However, the clause is the mountains will um, give you what you get, and an app can't help you with that. So there's only so much you can do. But we are going to talk about ways to exit in all types of weather. Something to know straight off the start, and I guess this is fairly obvious, but some conditions will greatly improve our start performance, and others will dramatically reduce it. Right. So we're going to discuss kind of all of these right here, and we're going to kick off with this first video. Um, Maybe I'll just talk through it first, Lisa, and then we can watch it, right? I reckon. So, yeah, this first one is going to be thermal lift. Okay, we've spoken about this slightly before when we were talking about, anabatic winds coming up the face. That can be helpful. Making sure we're jumping in the windward side, that can be helpful as well. Okay, but now they create thermals. Okay, those thermals can dramatically improve our start performance, like way so. Okay, it's actually pretty amazing at what thermals can do. Remember, warm air rising across that face can support quick inflation. It can give us early drive if we're putting in our arming pressure. And it is nice having like a little bit of thermal, just a little bit on the start. Super nice. It's like reassuring. However, thermals to fly in generally are not smooth, and where there is lift, there is sink. Okay, so think if you're terrain flying, you're like kind of flying on this stuff. You maybe want to be wise about the line that you may be flying that day. And they can just be kind of bumpy to fly in. So check out this video here. And I just pay attention to the clouds and look at which way they're going. Cool. Maybe we can put that back to the very beginning just so you can see it. So yeah, as you see here, um, those all that cloud there, that thermal is lifting, 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 rising. And look at the inflation on this suit. As soon as we exit, this is Chris Pro here. As soon as he exits, he's literally fully in flight, and that suit is just boss, and it's out of there. Look at that. It's amazing. So that is a increase with our start performance. So it's very, very useful jumping with a little bit of thermal lift. But just remember, like we said, there's thermals at the top. There's going to be some down here in the line, and just be wise on where you fly with that in mind. All right, cool. I got distracted looking at that video then. I was like, oh, cool wingsuits. All right. Next one is going to be a headwind. Okay, so this can significantly improve our start performance. Kind of similar to the thermals, but thermals more heat based, whereas headwind is a bit more wind based, right? So this can increase relative airflow. It will improve our inflation speed. It will build forwards drive faster. The only clause that kind of comes is that if you are jumping in wind, okay, so typically South Africa is a very windy location because of its area on the map and where it lives. If it's super gusty, it can feel pretty intimidating to jump in winds like that. I'm not saying that is a good idea. I'm just saying that if you have a light headwind, it will help your start performance. Kind of treat the wind kind of like ocean swell. So it comes in pulses, it comes in waves. Just hang out, pick your time wisely, and if you are going to be jumping in a headwind and you're committed to it, jump at the lower end of that said headwind. Yeah. So this is a video from again 2015, I think, when me and the boys went out to South Africa. We were exiting, I believe, to the east off of Cape Town. Yeah, this is in South Africa. Pay attention to how windy it is. This is super clean, kind of 12, 15 mile an hour winds. So you can see and hear it. There's wind on exit. Again, it's a headwind. It was very, very clean. It was constant. And we all felt with our experience comfortable enough to jump. Is it of absolute best practice? Not necessarily. Really, of best practice would be to be jumping in almost zero sort of wind conditions as such, right? So this is something that you will gain with experience. Just be very wise with how you use it. But what we can see with the back wingsuit, if we kind of just go back kind of to the start there, Elise, that video, just look at how quick the inflation is. So you see the guy on the top right here, his toes are over the nose, sick. um, super nice to see. Just look how quick this inflation is. Look, see the arming pressure? He's already gone. And you're talking like 30 meters, 100 foot, just boss, getting straight out of there. Okay. Throughout this flight, it was basically just the top, just that face where it was lifting up. We just had a little bit of wind there, and then landing was like literally zero on the ground. So it was super helpful. Next one is crosswind. Boo.
Tailwind.
Are we going to do tailwind? Oh, sorry, I
We're
skipped a
gonna do
step.
tailwind.
Thank you, mate. Cheers
That's
for
okay.
that. We switched that round, didn't we? I remember
We
now.
did. We switched it around.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to do tailwind. We've got a video that's going to accompany this as well. Wild guess here. Is it going to help us or is it not? It's not going to help us. Okay, so if you do find yourself on an exit point jumping with a tailwind, it will greatly decrease your start performance. It just takes longer, is it? It just takes longer. You'll be like, fuck, I feel like I'm not going anywhere. You'll be like a little worm trying to cross the road. You're like, and then eventually you get going. Especially if you're used to jumping exits that have, a little bit of thermal, a little bit of wind. As soon as you go into that lee side, jump into that bowl. Maybe you got a little bit of rotor across the back. It's just going to take a bit of time. So that in mind, remember how the video was with the headwind that we just saw. and how quick that start was, we'll have a look in comparison to a light tailwind. This is like 2 mile an hour lee side tailwind, just to that just takes that extra bit to get going, and then we kick into flight. So it becomes important when we are relying on conditions for our start performance. So it's all this seminar is about this stuff, weather, start performance. A nice exit, everything's done correctly. Could have applied a bit more arming pressure, but just you can see it just takes that extra hair to get going, because of the slight tailwind and the sinky conditions. Right, our next one. I actually don't have a video for this, sadly. It's just crosswinds, right? So we can just talk about it. Um, it's I feel like it's pretty obvious, right? So there is not a positive scenario for jumping in the crosswind. You're not like, oh yeah, sick crosswind, let's go. You're like, oh no, a crosswind. This is terrible. I actually might have to hike down because it's so crosswindy, right? And that happens in the mountains. You kind of just have to, yeah, pick your own sort of way to deal with it. And many accidents over this time of wingsuiting, and you look back at the history, a lot of accidents and fatalities have occurred from crosswinds. Okay. My advice is really simple. Don't jump in a crosswind. It's not going to help you. If you are so eager to jump and it is absolutely necessary, wait for the crosswind to not be a crosswind anymore and hopefully turn into something that's going to help you. Again, it's just not good to be jumping in a crosswind. I'm just thinking of a story that just popped into my head. Last year we were on an exit in France, and I was doing some jumps there with the crew, and we were on an exit, and I was like, "Fuck, man!" We checked all the weather, like all the things said this was going to be so good today, and it was like strong, like no one's going, like zero, like I'm not even going to go. We're going to stay here. We're not jumping a crosswind. Bad. So we're just like, well, this view's kind of cool and you guys are really cool. We got like loads of bananas and water and stuff. So why don't we just like have a picnic? So we had a picnic, and yeah, we hung out and shared stories, and the sun kind of did its thing, and all of a sudden, crosswind just literally disappeared. They started heating up. We're like, oh, this is great. So if it is a crosswind, I'd just say for sure wait. It's it's a best practice to just not jump in a crosswind for sure.
Okay. We, funny enough, only have one question related to exiting in weather, and it is from Alexander Carlson. Is there a way to determine if there is an acceptable level of crosswind? I
Hmm.
I think it's an interesting question, and I don't know. Maybe people know, maybe people don't know. I don't wingsuit base jump right now. I took a two-piece with Sam last year, and I ended up exiting in a crosswind in a two-piece, and even I had a fucking moment. Like we're talking like leg up, like hips starting to rotate, and it was a moment of oh shit. And of course you could correct it. It's two-piece, kind of like was
Mm.
fine, but when I apply that experience to other suits, more fabric, more surface area, very curious about how that would go.
Yeah. It's not good. So like I can talk about it real quick. If I kind of don't want to like give information away that's not the correct thing to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
totally do
like,
it.
yeah, the best thing is just to not do it. But I would say, and I'll just say this is you do not want to be jumping in crosswinds. Let's just make that paramount. If this decision has been made and you are gonna do it anyway because you have to, okay, there are techniques that you can do which will help you be able to do it safely. Um, and we refer to this as we call it the salmon exit. So I just imagine like a salmon swimming upstream and it's trying to jump up the weirs. Okay, so it's using its body like this. What you're trying to do is just have everything collapsed because what you'll see is a lot of times, even at Brento, popular jumping site, we get crosswinds there that happen quite frequently. Maybe only for only the first 300 feet, but people will be like, let's fucking go. Okay, in a wingsuit. And I'm just like, don't open up too quick. And like that's what I'm thinking in my head. And I'll see someone go and they go like Hadouken, and they open everything up and they go "Ah," like this. What you're essentially doing is as you exit, if you're just going maximum start performance, go, you are like a leaf in the fucking wind, and that wind will knock you over. It can, in instances, have rolled people over onto their backs and obviously cause fatalities as well. The salmon style exit is basically what you're trying to do is just keep everything collapsed. Okay, so the arm wing is not inflating, the leg wing is not inflating. You're almost like kind of cannonballing off in some ways. You're beating the airspeed, so you're like less like influenced by the wind, and then you can sort of punch out from it and fly out like that. So there are techniques to use to exit in a crosswind, but again, to read, just don't,
Yeah, fair
just don't.
enough.
Yeah,
Makes sense. No start performance there.
just poo performance.
just poop. Awesome. Awesome. So
Nice.
this has been super cool. That kind of concludes our like unique new content. We got more stuff to a couple more things to go over today. But as far
Yep.
as like parts 1 through 3, that's all that's a bunch of unique content that we had.
Yeah.
I think the thing we're gonna go over next is like a pre-flight preparation, a pre-flight checklist. Like how can you keep track of all of these things that we've talked about over the last 3 seminars?
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And I think it's kind of just really gets applied to kind of this stuff, doesn't it? Which is the pre-flight prep list or checklist that you put together for this. So this is it. It looks mental because it should be. So kind of explain this to everybody listening. When we first started discussing this, the objective of these seminars was to put information out to people who were interested, because at least it was out there. It's really hard to find loads of really good information on wingsuiting. Um, and I've always felt that I've just loved teaching and trying to help the community. And now, with sort of my experience level with it, I just really wanted to share as much as possible. And now we've kind of done that over these seminars. There's we today, I could probably run another bunch for sure and start diving deeper into certain topics. But Lisa's doing this right now, which means no, because it takes a long time
Fire.
and it's a lot of effort. So we're going to have some time out from it. Maybe until next winter, maybe we can do some more.
You do next winter, yeah.
um, so yeah, let's check out this rad checklist. Okay, and we've broken it down into a handful of sections. So we've got flight research, weather, legality and access, logistics, personal factors, other considerations. Okay, and then we've got a kind of like a final checkout at the very, very bottom. Within that, we've got for each section the considerations that we need to take into account. And then Lisa's cleverly attached the apps that we can use to build on. And also you can add your own too, which is pretty cool, right? So with this, let's just have a quick chat for it. We won't spend too long. There's not really loads of it because for anyone that's listening would have kind of feel pretty familiar with this with all 3 seminars, but nonetheless, we will go forward. So top thing is flight research. This is really, really crux. Like you want to know as much about the jump as possible before going out. So it can be as basic as, have I checked the exit height and the rock drop? Do I know what it is? Can I do it safely? Can I use base beta to confirm this? Is there other resources of information that I can have? Do I know this? If the answer is yes, give it a tick. That's great. Terrain profile, understood. Have I lasered or do I have access to the terrain profile? Have I put over my flight site information to see if I can actually get out of there? Or at a minimum, have I calculated where I'm going to be flying using Google Earth, use the ruler, calculated some trigonometry through there? We move on to the glide, calculated glide. Remember, we spoke about this in the second seminar. My preferred style of flying is always between a 1.7 and a 2.2. That maximum horizontal speed can be reached. It's maintained. It gives us range. We've always got something left in the tank. If you know that you're flying a line around that, wicked. You're going to get there with loads of confidence. Here's our primary marker and secondary, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, however many markers been identified for the line. Remember that we always want to try to be high on that first marker. How do we get high on that first marker? We apply all of our stuff for start performance. Yeah. So it's all kind of coming together now. Line of flight. Again, just to reiterate, it's the second marker, the third marker. We start building that dot to dot, that connecting puzzle, or that dance or that flow down the mountain. Yes, we can tick that. Have we identified the lift and sink areas that we've just spoken about. Am I jumping on the leeward side? Am I on the windward side? Is it an anabatic wind? Is it catabatic? Is there a low pressure system? Is there a high pressure system? These are things we can start taking into consideration before we get into weather, and just knowing about that too. There's our crossover. And has our opening area been located? And do we know which way the wind's coming? So we spoke about this briefly, I think, in the second seminar. Just to reiterate it again, always pull upwind of your landing area. It'll give you plenty of time to fix any issues, unzip, and then you won't be trying to get into wind and not making it back. So always pull upwind of the landing area. Then moving into weather, have we checked the wind on exit? Yeah, we have, because we use windy in mountain forecast, and now we know what's going on up there, which is sick. Do we know what the wind's doing at the landing area? Yeah, I've looked at the models for the last few days before I came out here, and I've seen that we've got pretty predictable anabatic and katabatic winds. These are when their switches are. Do we know the thermal activity? Yes, we're jumping in the summer, for example. Do we know if there's cloud base or any coverage? Yes, we're going to be using Meteo Blue or other apps to go through that mountain forecast. Is there any rain in Norway? Yes, just deal with it. Learn to get wet. It's awesome. And what's the trending weather doing? So even now, if I'm planning a jump for this season, maybe there's something that I really want to go and do that's new to me. I'll be looking at the weather now, trying to figure out what the wind's doing, and starting to build that understanding of the jump out before even going out there. Have I checked the low and high pressure systems? Do I know what's actually happening? Are there any firn winds reported or are coming down on the radar? So that's the weather stuff. Legality and access is pretty crucial these days. A lot of the jumps that we do is shared airspace. There's a lot of jumps that have restrictions on them or closures due to certain times. Base Beta has information on this. So if you're going to do a jump that's familiar, or people are jumping, check into it. Check with locals, speak to locals, message locals. The base community is still a very sort of driven sport by the community, which is great. So always reach out. And then we get into the logistics. So these are just things that will just help generally. So if you know the time from time to landing from maybe your accommodation, cool. You can estimate that, plug that into your day, make sure that you're going to be jumping at the right time. Again, from the start of the hike to the top of the exit point. And you can use Gaia. And then if you're using Gaia all the time, you can then, if you really want to do it, I did this for a while, is I would take all my averages of distance and height gained and time. And then I'd be like, yeah, and I still, top of my head, I can do it vertical and horizontal K with a stash bag in an hour of 15, no matter what. So it's like I know. So then it's like I can start to calculate things and give myself good estimates on timing for hikes. Is the parking paid, not paid, free, safe, depending where you might be parking? Again, more things on hiking distance, elevation time, which we just spoke about. And have we identified the landing areas and any hazards? You can do this through Google Earth. And you can also do it by doing a site evaluation once you get there. And then just personal factors, which kind of comes into equipment that we need to take, just checking through the correct amount of waters being taken up. We've got food. We're going to take that chocolate to spike glucose for the exit. We've got a charged phone. Come on. That's very, very important these days. Maybe we've got an InReach Mini if we're jumping somewhere in a remote location. Emergency contact has been informed. So partner, friend, whatever that might be. Clothing's appropriate. I always take a down jacket, literally, even if it's 25 degrees outside, I'll take a down jacket. They're small. You can pack them right down. It might be that someone lands out and you never know when you might need it. Yeah. And we've located emergency numbers, local hospitals, etc., just familiarizing yourself in that local area. And then the last thing is the other considerations, which we kind of spoke about in the very, very start in that first seminar, those exterior factors. So is my physical health good? Am I fit? Do I have energy? Can I do this hike? Am I fully prepared for this? Am I mentally healthy? Let's check those boxes. Like you might be like, I'm super hungover. I probably shouldn't do this today, so I'm not going to go. That's good. That's smart. That's like a clever thing. And then just other considerations is obviously knowing what type of exit we're jumping from. Is it wood? Is it metal? Is it snowy? Is it grassy? Does it have a lip? Can we get our toes over the nose? Do we need to take anything to help us with that stuff, like a rope, etc.? Visualize the mission, and that's just the whole thing. That's the mission from waking up in the morning and drinking your coffee to getting back to that house and cracking open that first beer with the boys to froth out. And then the last thing is, based on this list, can I safely complete this jump? And if you can honestly tick that and go, hell yeah, I've got this, I'd say you've You've done a lot of
That's pretty
research.
good. That's
Yeah,
pretty good. Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. Like I
Yeah.
really like it, and that's literally what I will do for any new jump. Obviously, when they get repeated, it's kind of like oh, it's about that time there, and it's about this here, and you kind of know you like build up that sort of repertoire with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sick. So that's going to get
Yes,
sent
sick.
out along with everything else. So you guys will have that. You can make your own copies and actually check the boxes.
Yeah.
Um, that that's part three. So like this has been sick. We're actually gonna do a little recap. I know this one's gone a little long. Sam and I are just we're vibing.
Oh
So
shit. Sorry, I didn't even know.
no,
It's like
it
two
doesn't
hours,
matter.
dude. Huh.
It's recorded.
Okay.
Honestly, I think what's super interesting is over time attendance has dropped because people actually know that they're getting the recordings. So if anybody is curious, um, we have like over 420 people on this email list. Everybody gets those
Interesting.
recordings. It's pretty rad. Um, Something we are gonna do now, though, is just go over some of the questions that weren't answered in previous seminars.
Yes.
We're gonna kind of just go through parts one through three. So like let's get to it. We got a question on mental health from part one from
Oh, okay. Cool.
Hayden Stonesifer. Yeah, all the way back to the
Oh,
beginning.
yeah.
I actually love this question. I feel this. How do you deal with the lows between jumps and events?
Ugh. Honestly, it's pretty easy. You just start planning the next one.
There you go.
Yeah. Start chasing the dragon.
Do shit like this. You like
Yeah.
plan online events and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the highs and lows is hard. Hey, it's like I do get that because sometimes you'll go home from a trip, right? And I'm thinking about it like now. It's like I'm going to Brazil in a couple of days' time. And I know that afterwards I'm like, oh man, that was so fucking rad. I just want to do that forever. But you just appreciate the time. And I think about all the amazing things. And then like maybe I'll like deliberately like say and try and shoot like a little short documentary and do like the edit and then you can like relive it. Um, Definitely something that I do on a personal note because I have a pretty addictive personality and I really like intense stuff all the time. Is I'll always do like have a misogi to like work on. So that Japanese word is a misogi. Have a look at it. It's really cool. Misogi. Um, Always have something to do in between that. So then it's like the energy can be focused somewhere. So for example, misogi could be an Ironman, right? So you go off and do your base jumping stuff, and you're like, wow, that was crazy. Oh shit, I've got this Ironman to train. So it's like you're kind of like keeping that wandering brain like locked onto something that's also beneficial to your physical state as well, which is pretty cool.
yeah,
That's definitely what I do to sort of not be sad.
sick. Yeah. If anybody wonders why I spend time doing this, that's exactly why. Winters here are less less eventful. So
It's true.
All right, we got mostly stuff about part two. Next, a lot of training and skills. So we got a few questions on this. We have
Okay.
Shatal Muhajan again. What skills should be perfected in skydiving before attempting wingsuit base? This is kind of reminiscent of part two.
Yes. Skills to build up in skydiving before doing wingsuit base, not attempting it. We don't want to
Yeah,
attempt
yeah.
it.
Hopefully
We
you're
want to do
doing
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, just fucking fast horizontal speed. Work on that. In that perfect range. That's such good training. Instability training. Chuck
yeah,
flips in, barrel rolls. Really know where you are in that suit. And going back to that seminar. Oh, little Timmy, the little Timmy talk. So always go out and chase little Timmy. Who he is at that drop zone. Go make a friend. Because he's going to keep you on your toes and he will
yeah,
make you better.
yeah. Dude, that's accurate. I was at a wingsuit boogie. I was in intermediate flocks day one, no problem, easy. I went to beginner flocks for the next day just because my friends were leading them. Hard. I'm not the best wingsuiter right now. Man, the levels, the speeds, they change a lot.
Yeah, and if you
Yeah,
can stick with that, like you're doing something good,
doing
You
it.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing it.
Yeah. All right. We got another question. Val Ramoha. What are the most common mistakes beginner wingsuit base jumpers make, and how can we avoid them?
I would say that there's like a myth or misconception that happens a lot between skydive and base experience coming together for wingsuit base. So I think that people go, or okay, not necessarily people, but I think maybe the ideology or the idea behind it is goes, all right, yeah, I've got a fucking 200 base jump, sick, and I've got like 200 wingsuit skydive, sick. Just gonna do some wingsuit base, sick. There's like this massive, like it's not that at all. That yes, base jumping helps, skydiving helps a lot with the wingsuit, but getting into wingsuit base, you just have to accept that it's just not the same. And I think there's a bit of like skewed information that happens along that route. But really, what that is all the things that we've spoken about over the last three seminars, right? So they are the pieces of misinformation that need training and assessment beforehand to actually successfully do this, right?
Makes sense. Watch all the videos again. So this one kind of covers on a little bit of part two and a little bit of part three.
Okay.
Andy Finney, what should a onesie be used for in base?
Well, firstly, onesies are epic.
Yeah.
They're so fun to fly. Um, uh, but I would say, like, in all honesty, they should be used as like for where two pieces jump is probably the best way to explain it, right? So if two pieces are jumping there, take your onesie because it's just going to give you like the sickest one piece flight ever. Okay. Where mistakes happen with the one piece is people, I'm thinking of friends now who have died doing this. There's quite a few, is going, oh yeah, fuck yeah. Like I'll just onesie that wingsuit jump. And you're like, red flags. It doesn't work the same, right? We don't have good energy management. Yes, the speeds are similar, but we can't quickly hire glides and maintain if we need to, etc. Start performance is nowhere near as good as well, which we've just been discussing. So I'd say for anyone who's in a onesie, um, definitely just stick with where the two-piece jumps are initially. There's a handful of jumps through Europe and America actually that you can do in a one piece, but they're just like really big two-piece jumps in some ways. Yeah, I just wouldn't advise anyone to like really get after it in a onesie. It's not really like the tool for the job is probably the best way to explain it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Sick. All right. Another one on gear and progression. This one's super interesting. I actually hear this one a lot outside of seminars and through here. Kimonos. Is it better to wingsuit base a small suit or the suit you're currently flying?
Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like people ask this question because they're like, well, you didn't say no, so I'm just going to use this seat. You're like, all right. Okay, so there's a tough question, but correct answer on paper, if I think pilot brain would be use a smaller seat, right? And all you need is just a handful of jumps in that smaller seat first. Then you've got the sign of that, you know what's coming. Then go to your normal seat. That would be the answer on paper, right? That's probably the safest approach. But a lot of times, what typically happens is people again, and it's not bad. There is no exact right way this has to be done. If you've got a ton of time skydiving, we do hundreds of jumps in, let's say, an intermediate suit, and you're skydiving it a bunch, and you know that suit back to front. Now you've taken it to the tunnel, and you got like 10 hours in the tunnel, and it's kind of like you're really happy in that suit, and you've got all the base jumps to back it up, and maybe you've gone to a rope swing to do some stuff. It's kind of like that works. It's not like, hey, use this shitty old like little suit from 2010 because it's safe. You're like, that thing's fucking sketchy as like so I'd say like they're the two guidances of answers is there's one on paper and there's the actual reality of what people do, right?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Make a good assessment based on your skills. Uh,
Yes, that is it.
we've got one more training and skills question from Max Leziak. Do you have flare training tips, and what is your preferred deployment timing relative to the flare?
Okay, cool. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that through this seminar. Sorry,
Okay.
through the seminars, like the flare stuff.
Mhm.
Again, there's so much more we could have added, but really cool to bring up the question because we can talk about it and it's going to be useful. So, yeah, flaring, it's pretty cool. It's like one of the sickest things ever. But I like to break a flare into like four stages. And there is an amount of time that comes into account through that flare process. So bear in mind that to have a good flare, you have to have good horizontal speed. those, if you don't have good horizontal speed, you have poopy flare. So you need those two things to work together, right? And the way that I'll build this up, sorry, or divide this up is we've got the dive of the flare, the flattening of the flare, the actual flare of the flare, and then the pull of the deployment of the pull sequence itself. Okay, so through the dive, what we're trying to do is, like I just said, we're trying to build up that maximum horizontal speed. I know that if I keep it around a 2.0, it's just like max, 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 max. I'm trying to build it up, build it up, build it up. Then what I'll do is, rather than just going blah, flare like this, don't do that. What we actually want to do is take our flare gradually into a flattening process by adding arming pressure, hiring that glide for about 2 to 3 seconds. Then once we start to slow down, we're going to try and lift that suit. So we're adding up more arming pressure. We're trying to put our toes into it. We're literally trying to lift ourselves up, maintain that for, from the, say, the next third second, 4, 5, 6 seconds, depends what you want to do. And my personal preferred pull is not at the very top, not at the very, very top, because we're so slow. I'll kind of pull, let's say, not at 100%. It would be like around 80, 75. So I still have relative airspeed for that pilot chute, that 30-inch size pilot chute, to do its job and come out and actually extract properly. Um, yeah, that's kind of like the breakdown of how a flare works. And then I guess for the further part of that question is was about how to actually throw the pilot chutes, or pilot chute, I should say. I said shoots because of what I'm going to explain. Is there's different techniques for this. Again, nothing's right, nothing's wrong. There's just different ways to do it. My preferred technique for the deployment process is actually two pilot chutes throw. So I actually extract both pilot chutes, two pilot chutes, and as soon as they're thrown, I actually bring my hands, collapse the wing here, and I bring my knees together. And what I'm trying to do is actually sit into the harness through that opening technique. And this has taken so much time to try and like learn and now kind of master. So we'll be flaring, lifting it right up, pitching, and then I'm trying to sit into the harness like this. And as I'm sitting into the harness, I'll have my hands just on the risers so I can have a little bit of controllability. Because essentially what's happening is, if you think about it, the pilot chute is directly connected to your hips. It just goes through pilot chute, bridle, pins, bridle attachment point, canopy, lines, risers, main lift webbing, hips. So if you follow the sequence of it, that's how you get really good heading performance, in my opinion, as well. Um, and then there's other techniques. Obviously, you can flare up and actually just do normal single hand, continue flying. The reason I don't prefer that one that much is because I feel that the burble can sometimes fuck up the opening, and then you sometimes get whipped through that opening process. And then you can, if you're slightly offset, you can put yourself into line twists, which we see kind of frequently. Um, Short answer, no, given the long one, just go out and train it. But definitely break up your flare from dive, 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 full max speed, flatten for a few seconds, start to lift suit. And what's really, really fun in the base environment is we used to do this, still do now. We call it a 2-for-1. Is you exit, build up as much speed as possible, flare right to the top until you're like, oh shit. And right as you're about to fall out the sky, you could do a little corkscrew or keep on going or do something else, and you get kind of like 2 jumps for 1, which is pretty fun.
That's awesome. So this is the final question, and I'm adding it in very selfishly. So Anna, if you're out there, let's fucking go. Anna Mueller's got a question. Would you consider running a women's only Learn to Base Jump course? And if so, what's the minimum number of new students?
Oh, would I consider it? Absolutely. Yeah, I think that it would be a cool thing to do. I've been asked, or we've been asked a few years ago, if we do an all females course. Um, and I think it'd be really interesting to
Yeah,
do. I just think it'd be interesting, like to
yeah,
see the like dynamics of how it all works. The course
different.
would not change at all.
Right.
It would be
Yep.
like, hey, this is how we do it, and you know what it's like as well. So
You
um,
rage. Yeah, we rage.
yeah, we rage when we do it. So I would keep that there. I think what's cool, like firstly, girls in base is sick. That's the first thing. It's sick. It's a shared environment. It's wicked. There's good communications to be had between male and female. And what we notice is when courses run and we have like an all dudes course, sometimes you're like, oh man, you can like smell the testosterone, right?
Mm.
Seriously, you can. You're like, this is pretty macho. It gets quite like, like, yeah, dudes, like we're dudes in base. Soon as we have chicks on a course, the dynamics are so much better. There's like calmness. It's crazy. So after running, all these courses for over 10 years, it's like nice to have the balance of people. And I think that both ways complement each other, right? So I just have never had a course with all girls. I think it'd
Yeah.
be quite cool to do, like full girl power. And if we did want to do that in the future, I'd say keep the course kind of not crazy, 6, 7 people, and then have any like space jump chicks that have come through in the past come back together. And we'll just do like a sick, I was like, yeah,
Fuck yeah. All right, you heard it. If you're out there on the recording and you are interested in this, you do not need to be a brand new base jumper to take this course. I showed up with over 100 jumps, had a sick time, raged at the bridge, got some terminal jumps in, learned some stuff. Going back to the valley this year with that knowledge, it was just an awesome time. So if you're out there, you're interested in that, message me. I'd love
yeah,
to make it happen.
yeah. I'm scared.
Um, it's gonna be rad.
Yeah,
Okay, that's it, dude. Fuck,
we're
we did
done.
it. That's
All the
parts one through
questions.
three. We did everything.
Cool. Awesome.
Um,
Stoked, mate.
yeah, that's the whole series. So you all know what I'm gonna say. Within the next week, you're gonna get links to everything. You have the full guide. The reason it's gonna take me longer is because we're just gonna add more resources and more links to it so that it's like super comprehensive. So keep an eye out for that. Links to the recordings. I'm gonna try to move all the videos onto YouTube just so it's like easier for everybody to access them and see them.
Hmm.
And classic. You're gonna get a survey. But this survey is like way cooler. It's 2 questions, all right? Hear me out. Please fill it out. Uh, the questions are gonna be, what topics are you interested in learning about regarding base jumping? And who do you most want to hear from within the professional base community? I'm down to do these a couple times a year from December to March. It's kind of like that winter season, not as much jumping happens. So if you have things you want to learn about, let's talk about it. Uh, and with that, thanks so much, Sam. This has been awesome.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's weird, hey. Like it feels weird that we're kind of closing this chapter.
I know.
So yeah, just want to say, I guess to wrap up, thanks to you, obviously, Lisa. This has been epic 4 months of planning and so much back and forth. It feels weird when we don't communicate with each other within like a week. We're like, hey, how you doing? Just checking in. So it's been really cool doing that with you. And yeah, like I fucking love this sport. I think it's super rad. I just want everyone to learn as much as possible and enjoy it and do it safely. And I hope for everyone that's listened either to one seminar or all of them that they've learned something because that's the whole point in doing this. And yeah, fuck yeah, be safe out there in the mountains. For anyone listening, if you ever want help or guidance, ever, and it could be about the good, the bad, and the ugly, or you just want to have a chat, I'm an open book, and I'm always happy to hop on a call or answer an email. So always reach out. Don't be a stranger. I love this. I love this shit, and stay rad.
Oh yeah. All right, everybody, have a fucking solid season. Catch me in Moab throughout the year, always there October, November, like the entire time. And I'll personally be in Lauterbrunnen from late July to the end of August. I'd love to see you on the exit. Bye.
Bye.